Yeah, I think we have common ground here. So understand
before you
then.
go on with that, Kenneth just presented $5 here through a super chat. So I'll go ahead and read it. And this is a question for you, actually, and you can get to it now or after the thought you wanted to make. He wants to know if you've eliminated all of the natural ways for a universe to form, and if not, then you cannot say that it's God or that it must be God. So what do you think? And that's kind of along the same line of reasoning that I was going through.
Yeah,
like, have we eliminated
I have
all of the natural?
Yeah, I have a problem with the question. I mean, do we need to do we need to find all the potential killers before we convict the guy who we're rather certain is the killer?
The answer
You
is
follow
yes.
what I'm saying?
In the American system of justice, it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, right? So if there could have been other killers, then you cannot convict someone because it could have been them as well.
But you're not hearing me though. Do we have to go and search and find? Do we have to go? I mean, if we say okay, this a guy killed somebody, do we have to go and find the the whereabouts of every single guy? Does every single man in the country have to give an alibi?
No, we have to eliminate the way that the legal justice system works anyway, which is a little bit different from what we're talking about here. But you have suspects in a legal justice in a crime situation, right? There's a suspect where the evidence is either sufficient to warrant a guilty verdict or there's insufficient evidence, and then you have to conclude that they're not guilty. It doesn't mean that they're innocent. It just means that there's insufficient evidence to warrant belief that they're guilty, right?
Yeah.
But so that's it. That's how you work. But we know that the natural exists is kind of my position. I'm aware of the natural world. I'm not sure if there is any such thing as the supernatural or if the idea of the supernatural even makes sense, because no one has ever presented a thing to me that has been supernatural or told me how they are able to conclude that it is supernatural.
Okay. So if we're going to talk about supernatural, and we both agree on natural, then when I talk about a miracle, I'm talking about a supernatural event, something that that overpowers the laws of nature. You know, this is a supernatural.
Do we have evidence that anything like that has ever happened?
Oh yeah, I think we got great evidence that Jesus rose from the dead.
Such as
that Jesus. What evidence? I mean, you have eyewitnesses.
No, we don't.
You have their testimonies recorded.
No, we have testimonies that there were eyewitnesses. We don't have any eyewitnesses though. Remember,
that's not exactly true, because many of the disciples saw. I mean, Paul saw the resurrected Jesus. Peter saw the resurrected Jesus.
So the story is that Paul had a vision of Jesus, not that he saw Jesus resurrected. Paul wasn't even in the scene when Jesus.
That's true.
Died or was resurrected. So he did not see Jesus or Jesus being resurrected. He just had a vision of him on a Damascus Road experience.
Well, in his account to the other disciples, he said, Jesus appeared to me. This is more than just a vision or more than just a voice. He said, Jesus appeared to me. And so that is one. But here's the deal. So if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, they could have squashed Christianity. I mean, Christianity wouldn't have even got out of the gates. They could have here's his body right here. I mean, look, you can see right there where the nails went through.
I don't know that there ever was a Jesus.
So Jesus mythicism.
But if I grant that there was, could there be naturalistic explanations for the disappearance of his body?
There could be, but I mean, do you really want to go down that road?
Well, that's the only road I have to go down until someone presents evidence to me of the supernatural.
Well, but the deal is that there were all these witnesses who saw the resurrected Jesus.
I don't
and I understand
that there were any witnesses. I have evidence that there is a story that claims that witnesses were there, but we don't know. We don't know if that's true.
I know you don't, but the thing is that remember we're talking about something that was written just a couple of decades after the life of Christ. I mean, if you wanted to check up and just and put it into the story, okay, all right, well, all right, you had all these witnesses. Let's go. Hey, let's go interview these people. I mean, this thing could have been squashed. Let's talk about naturalistic explanations for a moment.
Was that done?
I'm certain that it probably was, because there's nothing more that the Jews wanted than to squash Christianity.
Well, that's what the Jews wanted, but the Christians wanted to uphold it, and the people writing the Bible, the New Testament, were Christians. So did they actually, are there any interviews of anybody in the Bible? There's testimony that there were witnesses, but do we know anything about those people?
Well, I mean, yeah. Paul gives a list of them, and some of them were even authors of the books of the Bible. You have James, the brother of Jesus. He did not believe that Jesus was who Jesus said he was until what? After he saw the resurrected Christ. Then all of a sudden he's the pastor of the Church of Jerusalem. He wrote the book, by his name in the Bible, James. Yeah, I mean that's pretty solid evidence.
I would say that if they had seen what they claim to have saw, if we have reason to believe that what's claimed to be eyewitnesses actually were eyewitnesses, and if we also have reason to believe that these people who say they were eyewitnesses actually saw something, do we have any reason to believe that what they saw was actually a resurrection, other than their claim?
Well, we know that mass hallucinations don't work that way. When people have hallucinations, because that does happen sometimes when people lose a loved one, they believe that they've seen their deceased loved one, and that can happen. But they're not consistent. It doesn't happen in a mass group.
I disagree with you. I think there are indigenous people in America who have mass. I wouldn't call them mass hallucinations, because that could be offensive in their spiritual beliefs, but they certainly go on joint vision quests where they do have shared experiences. So that does actually happen.
Yeah, I mean, but you're kind of changing it. I mean, we're talking about a scene where there's 500 people who claim to have seen the resurrection, but let's work off some of these natural explanations. I mean, what are we going to say?
Just on that last point, I'm going to highlight this because it reflects it. This is a materialist Dan. He says that we have a claim of 500 witnesses, not 500 claims, and I would agree with that. But I'll let you go on to the other.
No, well, I mean, that's the wording there is kind of awkward, because it's 500 people that Jesus appeared to at one time. So I mean, yeah, you could say that was.
The claim in the Bible is that he appeared before 500 people, but there's not 500 people claiming that.
No, you don't have them all listed individually and they're all saying this, that, and the other. No, not at all.
So it's one person claiming.
Yeah, but here's
yeah.
Okay, but we have a logical problem though, because we got to go down the road of the natural explanations. I mean, what are we going to say, that it was the wrong tomb? I mean, how easy would that have been to fix? It wasn't that one. It was that one,
Yeah. So how many naturalistic explanations are there?
I'm not really certain. I mean, I've heard a handful of them, but it pretty much everybody who argues against the resurrection of Christ, Bart Ehrman's smart. And Bart Ehrman says, in regards to the resurrection, I don't know what happened. And that's honestly, that's the best answer, because the minute you try to say that he was thrown into a common grave, the minute that you try to say that that his body was stolen, or there's the wrong tomb, or whatever else you might think of, you put yourself in a really bad place that just doesn't follow a logical sense.
I would say that's true of the people concluding that a supernatural event happened. And I would agree with you that Bart Ehrman is probably smart for saying, I don't know. It's one of my favorite things when people say, when you're in a situation like that, when you cannot conclude based on the evidence that this naturalistic explanation works, to say, I don't know, rather than to say it was a supernatural event and proof of a miracle. What do you think about that argument I made a little while ago, that when we don't have enough information to make a conclusive case to rest on a decision that the best answer is I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I would concur with that. I think so.
Because that's the position of skepticism, which is the position that I'm holding. So I'm glad that we have at least that level of common ground, because if you don't know, and it could be this way and it could be that, and there's not enough evidence to say for sure, well then why would you say it was that way? Like, that's kind of how I feel. And it sounds like you're making that argument for the people claiming this absolutely didn't happen, but at the same time you're making another argument that you are convinced this other thing happened. So that's whereas what I'm doing is I'm saying I don't have evidence that either one is true or false. And so
you have evidence, you just don't find it convincing. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I don't have any evidence that a resurrection has ever happened. I have testimony from people that there were witnesses to a resurrection, but that's all anecdotal, right? That's not really, when I talk about evidence, I'm talking about empiricism, something that I can actually see, evaluate, witness, test, that sort of thing, something that's objective.